Hey everyone, a lot of you will know we have a site full of team comps for TFT, but we also do these expert video guides to take it one step further. You can find all of our comps for set 5 on our website and all the information like spatulas, which is linked down below. This comp revolves around the 6 redeemed trait, but it actually uses Lux as the main carry with vel'koz as a potential secondary carry. Lux does a lot of damage on her own anyway. She provides a solid shield, but she can be found early into mid game, so you can snowball in a healthy spot for the late game and continue itemizing other units like your vel'koz or Kale. This comp is a default leveling comp. That means it doesn't rely on any 3-star units and you will level up at a regular pace. You will look to stabilize at level 7, roll a little bit maybe with a copy of vel'koz or a 2-star Lux, while saving most of your gold to roll a level 8 to hit your units like vel'koz, Kale, Volibear and Ivern. So for level 8 team then is going to be vel'koz, Volibear, Kale, Ivern, Rel, Lux, Syndra and Leona. Finishing this comp off at level 8 with all of your units should be enough to secure top 4 most games, assuming that you have good items, but to get first place you'll need to go further. A 3-star Lux or maybe even a vel'koz would do that, having a 2-star Kale with items instead of vel'koz, or as well if you get pretty lucky, or you can push to level 9 and add in some more 5-cost units like a Kindred or a Garen. Now, Syndra and Leona are the weakest units in this team comp, even though they provide redeemed. If you feel like your front line is too weak, you can look to replace them with units like Taric and Nautilus. This will give you things like Ironclad and Verdant as well, but keep in mind that having more redeemed units will make your team hit harder, so having a better front line isn't always going to mean a stronger team. When it comes to spatulas, redeemed is the obvious one to build. You can place it on a unit like Volibear and swap out something like Leona or Syndra for a better frontline unit like Taric. Spellweaver Emblem is actually really strong in this team as well, and it'll be good on any of your units that deal magic damage, so something like a Lux for bigger shields, and it will also buff up your vel'koz damage. Legionnaire Emblem is another one that is mainly useful if you're able to make Kale into another carry for your team. You could place it on a unit like Lux so that she gets some attack speed to cast faster. This team doesn't really use many shadow spatulas that well, so don't pick one up if you don't already have a plan to use it for something specific. When it comes to shadowed items, your Sacrificial Gauntlet will provide an immense damage boost to vel'koz. He can gain lots of AP through things like Spellweaver and Redeemed, so giving him crit damage to multiply that is going to be such a good damage boost, but you will need to pair it with a healing item like Hextech Gunblade. If you do get that, then Final Whisper will also always proc when combined with the Jeweled Gauntlet. That will reduce the enemy resistances, allowing all of your redeemed units to slap them much harder. Hand of Vengeance is also a go-to damage item for Kale that is strong on essentially every damage-dealing unit in the game, just like vel'koz. It will be a very strong third item for vel'koz as well, providing survivability and some damage. Outside of that, Volibear is a late-game addition to this team, which can apply the burn from Shadow Morello amazingly well to most of the enemy team. You can also pair that with a Shadowed Guardian Angel. He does have a Guardian Angel with Revenant, but it just means that he will revive with full health and be able to frontline even longer. When we're looking at our items, our main carry to prioritize is going to be Lux. She provides a solid mid-game boost and provides consistent damage and shielding. In general, you'll want to have Spear of Shojin or the shadowed version and Ginzu's Rage Blade. These two items synergize very well together and give Lux mana generation as well as scaling throughout the fight. Shadow Shojin will mean that you deal a little bit less damage, but you will have more shields, so it can be worth it. And then finally, for a third item, we recommend giving her some sort of ability power boost like Archangel Staff, Rabadons, or even a Jeweled Gauntlet. vel'koz is another great damage carry for this team, but he can be a bit inconsistent. He is one of the next priorities after itemizing Lux though. So in general, he wants a damage item like a Jeweled Gauntlet or the shadowed version. Rabadons works as well, and then a healing item like Hand of Vengeance or Hextech Gunblade. Lastly, we recommend placing that Final Whisper on him if you have the Jeweled Gauntlet already, but you can also run mana generations item on him as well, like a Shojin or a blue buff. Volibear is normally the next unit that you itemize. He'll be your main frontline unit, and he does very well with that combination of the Shadowed Guardian Angel and Shadow Morello. You can use the non-shadow versions as well if you want to. It's going to apply a really strong burn and healing debuff to a lot of different enemies with the large cast, and then Guardian Angel is just there for the frontline, but he can use any other defensive items too. Kale is another late game insurance option, but you will need to itemize her. She can become a monster with the right ones though, like Rage Blade, Hand of Justice, or Guardian Angel. The last thing you can really do is have some buffing items. So your main damage carry is magic, as there's no harm in giving vel'koz or Lux more damage with the Chalice or the Shadow Chalice. You can place it on any other unit, just make sure you place them back a bit for the buff. Zeke's Herald is also similar. It's really strong for buffing up either Kayle, Lux, or vel'koz attack speed, which is just going to let them do much more damage. Now let's go stage by stage and break down the strategy behind the team. So the general idea is your default leveling up to 8. With almost all of these default comps, you can start the game with just about any units and look to either win streak or lose streak. Even if you aren't running Redeemed, if you plan on running this team, make sure to build strong items for vel'koz. During stage 3, you level up to 6 at 3-2 and you build the strongest board that you can with the units that you find. You can roll down a little bit if you want to be aggressive or if you want to stabilize, but you'll get more mileage if you can wait until at least level 7 to roll. During stage 4 then, you level up to 7 at 4-1, and if you need to get stronger, you should roll down here in order to find and build a stronger team. Maybe just finding one vel'koz will be enough. If you are healthy or you're strong enough to hold off though, you have a ton of gold, wait until level 8 to roll down instead. So during stage 5, you level up to 8 by the latest at 5-1, and you roll down then to complete your team. Pick up all of the expensive carries in this comp, and then either decide to keep rolling for those upgrades or stop and level up to level 9. Lastly then, when we come to our positioning, it follows every other comp in that your ranged carries are in the back while your front line is in front, but placing vel'koz in one of the corners will ideally maximize the enemy's hit with his ability. Volibear is going to be the sole tank in the front because he can then cast his ability quickly. Lastly, you are going to need to swap sides with your backline to line up vel'koz's ability to hit enemy units on the other side. You should also move your backline to avoid things like Viego or Diana as well. Here's a good early example board that uses Redeemed and Rangers, which is going to be a pretty common start. So that will give you everything you need to know to win with our 6th Redeemed comp. And remember that you can follow along with this guide in game with our TFT overlay, so make sure you download that and bring it with you into your next game.